Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where it is 11:55 and me mate for the first time in like forever is actually gone in the morning because he went to collect his keys. So for the first time in like a month, feels like, I actually have some time alone to spend to record in the morning. Yay! Unfortunately though, have to do this with my breakfast because I don't have that much time anyway. I know it's super stupid, but if I have to wait until tonight, I will have even less time to prepare this. So I thought, why not just get this over with? So basically, what I have been focusing on today is what we are going to present in a few hours, maybe, because I think this is brilliant. Our teacher said that until next week, prepare a few slides, read the case, and I will choose some of the groups to present what they thought about the case and what they thought about some of the questions that were raised by the teacher. So everybody needs to do it, but just a few people need to actually present, which I think is, as I said, brilliant because then everybody needs to be prepared. I know there will be some gamblers out there who will be like, okay, we made a slide and we sent it to him, but we have no clue about what it is. Let's just hope he doesn't pick us. And, that's all fine and dandy, but I am not one of those people. So, what I basically have done is that I read the entire case on the plane, on the flight, back from Barcelona to Bordeaux, and that was pretty awesome. Not awesome, but like it was a good read, to be honest. It was all about RAP and food waste and resource management, and I know I've read it before as well, but like then I skimmed it through. Now I actually read the thing. So it was all about RAP and the continued success of the initiative in the UK and how the voluntary agreement between some of the suppliers and food markets. What do you call them? Anyway, some of the food marketplaces. That's gonna bug me. I know the name. You know the big places where you can buy food and everything else. It's like Lidl or Spencer's, I think it's called in the UK. Marks and Spencer's. Anyway, whatever. So it was food retailers anyway, in a way. Went together and made this continuous and voluntary agreement that they were supposed to reduce waste and cut waste until 2000, between 2005 and 2015. Spoilers alert, it was so good and it was so efficient that this initiative actually carried on until 2025 because they reduced so much waste and the government actually went in and supported this initiative with like what 2 or 3 or 4 million pounds, but the savings that this turned out to give was, I don't know, it was in the billions. It was, I think, 1.3 billion pounds just the first phase, which was between 2005 and 2010, I would like to say, and then they reduced, or then they saved even more money between 2010 and 12, and then between 12 and 15 they saved another billion or so. So they saved a lot of money on this initiative, and they reduced waste with millions of tons in each phase. So that was cool to read about. That such um, a voluntary agreement like that between a group of suppliers can actually make such a big impact. But then the question also was, do you think that, and that's like what I'm going to present, by the way, like what did the court law commitment actually achieve? And that's like the RAP thing. But then we also had a question about, do you think that it would be better to have this governed by laws, or do you think that they gain by having it as a voluntary initiative? And that's me mate's question. He's going to answer that because we're in the same group in this one. Yay! So basically, what he came up with, which what I thought was brilliant, was that, or well, not brilliant, but like it it was a good perspective because I had totally missed it. So in a way, that's brilliant. uh, he said that basically, if this initiative was supported by the government, let's just say, then everyone would do it. Like all the people in the country would be forced to do it, except for the people that don't care about laws, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. But like, let's say that a good 90% of the people would actually get involved and be involved and do this. The bad thing with doing that is that most people, since it is a law, would probably just do the absolute minimum they could do in order to fulfill the law. So in order for them not to break the law, they will do the absolute minimum in order to gain, so to say, the law, like to uphold the law. But they wouldn't. But they might not do more. Now I know some people will. There are always some people who will do more. But then he said, if we then take it to the voluntary basis, everybody who has actually invested in doing this, like they're put on their free time to and their leisure time to, or put on them, sacrificed it in a way, or they like this. So they put aside part of their leisure time, a part of their personal time, to actually care about the environment and this initiative. That might mean that they will put in more time, or I would say it would likely mean that they will put in more time and actually care about the results of the initiative. And that might mean that only, let's say, 50 or 70% of the population is doing are included in the voluntary agreement or the voluntary initiative instead of the 90%. Let's say it's between 50. Let's say 50% of volunteer of the country is included in the voluntary assignment, or 90% if it is governed by law. That's a difference between 40%, but the 50% who would actually be included in the voluntary part might actually be more interested. So they might go further. So then we have to think about, well, what is best? 90% doing the absolute minimum, or 50% doing more than they need to? Let's just generalize and say that's how it will be, and that's how it would be. Then you can also take into account the idea that if you have it on a voluntary basis, more people would be inclined to help companies reduce their waste as well in their supply chain management. Like, for instance, implement lean thinking about what is a better ecological alternative. So they might actively think about that when they're in the stores, or when they've used an item, or when they've applied a service. They might actually be more inclined to give the company some feedback. And this is going back to like active listening, but in a different way, active listening that I talked about a few days ago. But this is more inclined with the idea that active using, so to say. But yet again, that you actually understand what the product is, and that you give the feedback in the end, or the active participation, so to say, that you actually fully understood what the product is about in this case, in this perspective, in this context. I think that, and well, anyway, he will come down to the conclusion that it depends, of course. But I think that it depends as well. Obviously, it may or may not be better to have a law. We don't know. We at least didn't find any other case. Well, since this is his part, he said that he didn't find any other case. There might be some, but they are not within our reach at the moment, so to say. They might be, but we haven't found them. We haven't found them. That's a fun term to use, when you work in a group and someone has, not in this case, but the times when someone in your group haven't found something that's really obvious, and you have to stand there as a group and say, we didn't find it, not that person did something completely unnecessarily wrong and didn't look for it. No, we didn't find it. Anyway, he might not have found it, he didn't find it, and I believe that it might be hard to find the information then, or it's just a small presentation and who actually gives a crap. I do, because I like school. I'm a bit of a nerd. I love these things, but, well, not enough to actually drag another mate through the mud just because I want to have a good presentation that we might not actually be able to present. This is not like the last group work. That's actually continuous and ongoing and will be ended in 2018. No, it won't, but like in December this year. So I'm chilling more, focusing more about the group aspect. And then we have yeah, I know this is like the end now, and I have to because I have to have a firm schedule right now so that I actually make it to. I'm gonna go to the bank and then to the school and then eat my breakfast and all of that. What is action? And then we have this guy anyway, who is so interesting because I wrote to him last night and I was like, yeah, so we have the presentation tomorrow. Which part would you like to take? It's only a 5 minute presentation. Can split it between us. Would you like to have a big or a small part? Would you like to speak for a minute or two? Because that's like the two alternatives you have: a minute or two. Not just a minute or two, but like that's the options you got. And this guy was like, oh, were we supposed to present? Were we supposed to do anything for Monday or Tuesday? I mean, I was like, yes, you were supposed to read this case. That's 12 pages, but it's only 5 pages of text. Fun fact. And then I was like, but I've done the present, like I've done the PowerPoint. The only thing you need to do is you can talk about differences between food waste in France and the UK, since he is from France. Then I thought that's easy for you. You don't actually need to read the case for this. You can just listen to what I say. I'm going to take up some interesting facts between Sweden and the UK as well in food waste and how we use them. And he was basically like, "Hope we don't get picked." And I was like, "Oh, dude, really? Come on." He said this last week like 4 times, and he sent an email about it. Well, anyway, that was all for today. Have a nice day, guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully alone, but probably not because my mate won't move until like Wednesday. It's Wednesday tomorrow, but like Thursday probably or Friday, and then I'm going to go to a vineyard this weekend. Probably that's the point. That's the idea anyway. That's the plan. So let's see how all the structure and planning works out. But as I said, until next time, guys. See you tomorrow.